Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us on this week's final edition of GSI News Weekly. I'm your host, Andrew Wang.
And I'm Bayo. On today's show, we will tell you about the arrest of Travis Baumgartner, who was involved in a fatal shooting at a University of Alberta mall last Friday. Also, we will update you on the latest developments from the Luke Magnotta murder case.
And later on the show, we will be bringing you the highlights from last night's Much Music Video Awards, as well as sports highlights from the NBA Finals to LA Kings Stanley Cup Parade. All this coming up as GSI News Weekly starts right now.
On to our top story this week. Suspect in the bloody murder car heist that left 3 of his guard colleagues dead. Police called his armed and extremely dangerous. They warned the public not to approach him.
But in this case, Travis Brandon Baumgartner drove right into his arrest by trying to cross the United States border with a bag full of cash, and he went quietly without a fight. Baumgartner, age 21, had been on the run since early Friday, when police issued warrants for his arrest on 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. He was a security guard for the armored car company G4S. Police say he was on an overnight crew of 5 that was reloading an ATM at a University of Alberta's mall and residence. Shots rang out and 4 of the guards went down. Police identified Baumgartner as a suspect early. They went public and alerted other agencies. He tried to get into Washington State Saturday afternoon at a border crossing just north of Lyndon, Washington, near Abbotsford, BC. Police say he was driving the same dark blue pickup truck. Investigators have been looking for the same Alberta license plate belonging to his mother on the back.
The suspect is being held at the RCMP detachment in Langley, BC, and is expected to be transferred back to Edmonton sometime in the next week, where formal charges will be laid. And on to another disturbing story. Montreal police say DNA tests have confirmed that the hand and foot sent to 2 Vancouver schools last week belonged to murder victim Gabriel Lynn. The parcels arrived at Falls Creek Elementary and St. George's School on June 4th, and police quickly drew connections to the delivery of Lynn's body parts to the federal conservative and liberal parties. Adult film actor Luca Rocco Magnotta is accused of killing and dismembering the 33-year-old Concordia University student, as well as filming the horrific act and posting it online. Magnotta was arrested last week in Germany and remains behind bars while he awaits extradition to Canada, and he is currently on his way right now being escorted by police. Police in Montreal say they do not know why Lynn's hand and foot were sent to the Vancouver schools. Lynn's torso was found in a suitcase outside Magnotta's Montreal apartment, but his head is still missing. And also related to this story, a Montreal high school teacher was fired Thursday for showing a grade 10 class what is believed to be a video of the infamous body parts killing. The teacher at Cavalier de La Salle High School showed the video apparently at the urging of students in his history and civics class. Students said that during a discussion of current events and the Magnotta case, they asked him to show the video, and he apparently relented after they voted 22-3 in favor of watching it. The school board issued a statement saying the 29-year-old teacher, who was under contract while the end of the school year, was terminated effect immediately.
Is that his fault? Okay, anyways. Last Friday, June 15th, was the 1-year anniversary of the Vancouver Canucks loss in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, which set off a riot that swept through the city's downtown, leaving a trail of burnt cars, broken windows, and looted storefronts. The mayhem caused millions of dollars in damage, and its effects are still being felt as rioters face justice and the city reflects on what happened and how to move forward. Here's the report from CTV's Andrew Johnson. That's not me.
Was kicked, smashed, and set on fire. Some of the people responsible still haven't been caught. Vancouver police say these 10 men and women are some of the worst of the worst.
Topping this list is this person here. This is our most wanted suspect.
He was involved in the swarming and beating of Robert Mackay, who was trying to defend the Bay store. Two men came to Mackay's rescue, including UVic student Dean Seskin.
He's the real hero. I mean, we were just in the right place at the right time to help out, but honestly, he's like what people want to see Vancouver as.
So far, 2 people have gone to jail for their crimes that night, and another 20 are still to be sentenced after guilty pleas. When his riot investigation is complete, Vancouver's police chief promises more than 300 people will be charged.
We believe this is the greatest number of people charged with a crime arising from one incident in Canadian history.
Police in Vancouver were criticized for taking a hands-off approach. People were allowed to overturn and burn police cars. Looters freely smashed into businesses. The crowds were too large for police to take action. VPD says it won't happen again.
Make no mistake, if there's crowds that are going to get out of hand and we believe that criminality will occur, then we're prepared to take action.
Today's events to mark the 1-year anniversary of the rampage are focusing on the positive. The newest members of VPD's mounted squad stopped by London Drugs. Turbo and London were purchased by the department with donations raised by the store to thank police for their help last June 15th.
The nurses who are attending the injured.
And at Christchurch Cathedral, an open dialogue about what went right when so much was going wrong.
And that's really what we want to highlight, is all the good things people did the night of the riot as well as the days after the riot.
No one has forgotten what happened, but the people of Vancouver say their city will be just fine.
It doesn't change the city, you know, it's still a beautiful place to be. It's one of the friendliest places I've ever been.
BC drivers are once again facing what are considered the toughest drunk driving penalties in Canada after the provincial government was forced to adjust the law following a court ruling. The law was originally introduced in September of 2010, giving police the power to impound cars and hand out hefty fines to drivers whose blood alcohol level was higher than 0.05, which is slightly below the 0.08 legal limit under the criminal code. The law was later withdrawn after a BC Supreme Court judge ruled it violated drivers' rights because it didn't provide a way for them to challenge the result of a roadside breath test. Under the revised law, police officers may tell drivers they can have a second test if they fail the first one, and the lower of the 2 readings will prevail. Police must also provide sworn reports on every roadside driving ban they issue and must also submit documents confirming the accuracy of the breathalyzers they use.
Mounties are warning that the number of smartphone thefts is skyrocketing in Surrey, but they've been successful in securing charges against a man that is believed to be playing a major role in this crime wave. A 22-year-old man named Majinder Nagra has been charged with 14 counts of theft and 1 count of robbery for allegedly stealing smartphones in Surrey. Investigators believe he was targeting people who posted online ads hoping to sell their phones somehow. And consumers will soon be given more tools to make informed decisions when it comes to energy drinks. Until last fall, energy drinks were classified by Health Canada as a natural health product because some of them make health claims, especially around what they can do for mental alertness and awareness. As a result, most were not required to put a nutrition facts table on their products. But new measures by the agency will see most energy drinks now classified in legal terms of food, meaning that the nutrition facts table will be on every can.
Now let's take a look at some international and national news. Federal MPs have finished a marathon 22-hour voting session on changes to the government's omnibus implementation bill, considering more than 800 amendments. Although Bill C-38 was certain to pass, opposition parties slowed the process down by introducing scores of amendments. Opposition MPs felt the Bill C-38 was too broad in scope and had wanted it broken apart into separate pieces of legislation. They were especially concerned with faster environmental approvals of mining and oil projects and changes to the Fisheries Act, employment insurance, and old age security.
Syrian troops intensified shelling of rebel-held neighborhoods in Homs Sunday, according to activists who said humanitarian conditions in the city are growing dire and pressured for evacuation of 1,000 endangered families and dozens of wounded who cannot get adequate medical care. Homs has been under siege for more than a week. part of a major escalation of violence around the country. They forced the 300-strong UN observer force in Syria to call off its patrols. The observatory asked the UN on Saturday to intervene in Homs to evacuate hundreds of men, women, and children whose lives are in danger. It also said dozens of wounded people in rebel-controlled areas of the central city cannot get medicine or doctors to treat them. The chief of the UN observer mission to Syria said Saturday that intensifying clashes over the past 10 days were posing significant risks to the unarmed observers and hampering their efforts.
Three suicide attacks on churches rocked a northern Nigerian state Sunday, killing at least 21 people and winning about 100 prompting protests in a state that has been previously strained by religious tensions. The first two blasts occurred within minutes of each other and targeted two churches in the city of Zaria. A third blast hit a church in the city of Kaduna about half an hour later. An official working for a relief agency involved in rescue efforts said Sunday evening that 21 people had been killed and that at least 100 people were wounded in Sunday's blasts. Churches have been increasingly targeted by violence in Nigeria. The situation has led churches in Nigeria's predominantly Muslim north to boost their security in its nation of more than 160 million people, almost equally divided between Muslims and Christians.
And here is Gabriel Lynn to give us a look ahead of what he has coming up in sports. Gabe?
Thanks guys, coming up in sports, we'll show you highlights from the defending Grey Cup champions, the BC Lions' first preseason match against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, as well as highlights from the Vancouver Whitecaps game against the Colorado Rapids. Also ahead in sports, highlights from the NBA Finals Game 3 in Miami and the LA Kings Stanley Cup celebrations. All this coming up in our final sportscast. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Gabe. Before we go to break, here are some amazing videos you don't want to miss. A history-making event came to a successful conclusion Friday night as daredevil Nick Wallenda stepped out his tightrope onto Canadian soil, ending a tense 25-minute journey across Niagara Falls. Take a look. Wallenda's journey across the 457-meter wire, which was just 5 centimeters in diameter, began at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the U.S. side of the falls. It ended in Niagara Falls, Ontario at 10:41 p.m. where Wallenda was greeted by his wife, 3 kids, an estimated 120,000 cheering spectators, and 2 Canadian border guards. They're stealing some small drugs. Prayer, concentration, and training helped him make it safely across, Wallenda said after his walk.
Ahead on GSI News Weekly, as we mentioned off the top of our show, 2012 MMVA highlights from Toronto, as well as the weekend box office report. All this coming up on part 2 of GSI News Weekly. Stay with us.